Okay. Like I drive through, I see cows all the time, but I've never seen them at night, so maybe that's the deal. But they can only dream lying down.
Boom, boom. Is that a joke?
I don't, but if that was true, how would they know these things? Anyway, if you keep a goldfish in a dark room, it becomes pale.
Interesting. Well, maybe because it's in a dark room?
Yeah, I don't know how that works anyway. But here's something I do know, and this is in a sentence here. The quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog, uses every letter in the alphabet.
Oh, I did not know that. Fascinating.
I'll do that after the show to make sure. Hey, this is not Sesame Street, by the way. This is 100 Huntley Street.
It really is. And we do have a great program in store for you. Two incredible stories today. One of our guests today chased after fortune and fame, while the other is determined to use farm equipment to help children. To learn more, let's head over to Lorna Duick with her guest.
It's hard to imagine I could ever get up to any trouble, but there was a time where I needed to go to summer camp to work out my own issues. And with me right now is Ray Wheeler, who was the former director of Winkler Bible Camp. Now you're head of Christian Camps International. Ray,
Children's Camps.
Children's Camps International.
Right.
How did you ever find this old picture of me at camp? That was like, okay, 40 years ago.
Well, we made a couple of phone calls, and one of them was to Ted Goosen,
Yay,
who was the director
Ted
back
and
there.
Mary Goosen.
Yeah.
They loved me when I was in a difficult place in my life. Summer camp touched your life too, didn't it?
Well, it did in an unusual way. I did attend 1 week of summer camp. It was a little bit of a traumatic experience. First of all, I was homesick. I didn't like it.
How could you be homesick? You were such a troublemaker.
I was a little bit of
as a teenager.
Yeah, as a troublemaker. But being away from home at that time, I think it was 8 or 9 year old, it was pretty difficult. And so later on, when I became a camp director, I guess I became more empathetic and compassionate to the kids, because a lot of, especially the boys, they're homesick, and so I could really come alongside them. So.
Summer camp for me at Winkler Bible Camp changed my life forever about God. We had this ceremony at the end of camp, at the end of August, where Ted would ask if you wanted to follow Jesus, you threw a stick in the fire.
Okay, right.
And that happened for me that summer, an August day, 40 years ago.
Wow.
And that was a leadership summer for me. Not only did I start following Jesus seriously, I had many like false steps and many, but that was it.
Right on.
And so Winkler Bible Camp is incredibly precious to me, but it also gave me the chance to be a lifeguard that summer. And it was a summer I was really messed up as a young person. And the love in that camp from the cook and Ted and Mary and others and their families, you know, something happens at camp that is remarkable, isn't it?
There's so many testimonies, so many stories, and statistics show that so many people that get an opportunity to serve at camp will go on to full-time ministry. They'll be involved in it. It changes their lives. It gives them an opportunity to really experience God in a unique way, and to understand that God wants to work through them, specifically them. He's chosen them. It's not just a faith for somebody else and a journey that he wants to take everybody else on, but them specifically.
So how important is it to take a child out of the daily routine and put him in a nature place and stretch their comfort zone a bit, physically and spiritually?
Yeah, I think it's absolutely essential, because we all get into a rut, into the routine of life, and for something to take us out of that, to really get us involved in a community and to build relationships. And I think the biggest thing is to see the love of Christ being modeled, being lived out, is something that all of us yearn for. When we taste and see how good Jesus is, we see it in other people, we want the same thing.
Yeah, we still all need to go to camp in summer to do that. But let's, since we both were kids working out our troubled issues with God at Bible camp, God has gone on to give you a huge vision to do Christian Camping International for kids all over the place. Tell us what happened when you answered an email from a man in India wondering if we could do camping more than just in Winkler, Manitoba.
Yeah. Well, we got an application actually from this young man in India, and he wanted to be a camp counselor because he had a job in New York City. And so he sat down with his pastors and he was praying about what he could do before that. And so as we had sent him an application, apparently we don't remember sending an application, but responded to one of his emails. And he filled it out, we got the application, and he sat down with his pastors in their little thatched roof church on the floor, and he prayed with them about should he go to this camp. And so they took out a map of North America, and they located where New York City was and where Winnipeg was. And one of the pastors responded and said, well, they're so close together. Why don't you go do ministry over there in the Winnipeg-Winkler area, then take a bus to New York City? Because they're right close together. Okay. And so that's the understanding or image he had. And so for us to accept him as a camp counselor was a little bit of a difficult because of his language.
You were on the cutting edge of globalization is what happened. Okay.
God had a plan.
God had a plan. And this plan has included and excited now farming communities and church communities to send children to camps like we have in Canada, but to make it in locations where camping would not be possible yet. So tell us about the amazing harvest event that I'm going to be cheering on. I'm going to be on the ground with you in Winkler on the 4th. Our regular viewers, you've been seeing commercials every day for this very special event. Tell us about the amazing harvest.
Well, as a ministry starting out in 2005, our first year, we wanted the people to hear about it. We know that God was doing incredible things, but how do you scream that from the mountaintops to the world?
You set a Guinness World Book of Records. Well, you guys are crazy. Look at what you're doing here. Describe this shot of all these combines.
Yeah. Well, what you want to do is catch people's attention.
Yeah, well.
Yes. Yeah, so what we did is we did something that had never been done before. The record was 68 combines in one field, and so we brought together 105. And being agricultural community, rural community, it resonates. It really speaks to their heart, being involved in this. And then for us, certainly as believers, we see the symbolism of the spiritual harvest. I mean, Jesus talks about that. And I've had people at that time interview me, and they kind of question, like, what does harvest have to do with children going to camp? And I'm fairly, you know, I don't want to offend people, but at that time I felt, you know, I really need to unload and tell them what the spiritual harvest is all about, what Jesus says about the spiritual harvest. And so I shared that the field is ripe. It really is. And I tried to help people envision.
Children are so ready for God's love.
Yeah. And I try to help people within the faith community, the Christian community, to capture that vision, understanding. What if every one of us would do the part that God's asked us to do? Having these, at that time, 105 and then 200 combines on one field, we assign them all one specific role, one thing to do, and to do this within 5 to 10 minutes.
All at
to
the
complete
same
at the same time.
Which is so, okay, you got a shot here of the lady from the Guinness World Book of Records.
Yes.
I didn't realize they actually come on site.
They come on site.
Okay, and so we're going to be there again on Saturday, because you're going to set another record. Now we're going for 300 combines.
Yeah.
I'm praying it won't rain.
Right.
And really, these are Manitoba, and some of these are Saskatchewan farmers, are they not?
There's a few coming from Saskatchewan.
Because you also do this in Saskatchewan.
Right, but majority will be obviously Manitoba. Okay. And they're coming from probably as far as 200 miles away, some being trucked in, a few being driven in. But the majority would come within 45 minutes, half hour of our location, which is right on the edge of Winkler.
Okay, all right. So Huntley Street is going to go on the road with you guys, and we're gonna bring you back the amazing story. And Ray, it's so encouraging that something that blessed both of our lives when we were very young is now able to be shared in over 2,500 international churches.
Right.
That's remarkable. Okay, and you're going to find out how to make that connection internationally. But right now, $5 a child, $5 a child can get you into this international, beautiful work of Harvest for Kids. And think about that, pray about getting involved, and we'll bring you some more great stories after the Harvest weekend of what went on. But for now, pray about your part of sponsoring at $5 a child. Watch this.
I think that's one thing you had said to me too, just the time when they said, you know, start your engines or whatever it was.
Yes.
And to hear
everybody's engines roar to life.
Start up, you know, it's like, oh my, this is big. Because the sound was just everywhere.
Join us for Huntley in the Holy Land. Come and experience Israel on the trip of a lifetime as you walk in the steps of Jesus. March 19th to 28th. Hosted by Cheryl Weber, Greg Musselman, Maggie John, and Harvey Katz. Your guided tour includes 6 days of sightseeing in Israel on a modern air-conditioned motor coach. Stroll through Nazareth Village to experience what daily life was like in Jesus' time. Visit the Church of the Holy Sepulchre and the new Friends of Zion Museum. Then see the City of David and the Davidson Center, one of Jerusalem's top tourist attractions for its historical and archaeological significance. Enjoy comfortable hotel stays and take part in a special 100 Huntley Street Easter broadcast. Come with us to the Holy Land to create meaningful memories and find surprise blessings as the words of the Bible come to life in the landscape before you. For more information and to register, visit crossroads.ca/Israel Tour or call 1-800-265-3100.
I am so excited about this tour. I hope that you are going to join us on it. You know, I have never been to Israel, so this will be my first time, and I'd love to bring a couple hundred of my closest friends. So all of the information is at the bottom of your screen. Cheryl, Greg, and I would love to see you on this trip. We'd love to meet some of you in person in the Holy Land. And of course, we're all going to be bringing our Bibles as we see our Bible come to life. Some of the spots that we will be traveling to on this tour: Capernaum, the Garden of Gethsemane, the Church of Nativity, and of course, Bethlehem, one of the most holiest sites. Of course, this is the place where our Savior Jesus was born. And ties into our book, our offer for all this month. Kathy Lee Gifford, who is a daytime talk show host, she's an award-winning author, an award-winning host as well. She's written this great book with Rabbi Jason Sobel called The Rock, the Road, and the Rabbi. And today, they're talking about Bethlehem and the importance of journeying through the Holy Land through a rabbinical lens. Let's take a look.
For me, one of the most thrilling things about coming to Israel, the Holy Land, and studying in the rabbinical way is discovering just how wrong we've been in the past about how things actually were in the days of Jesus. Look around here. We are in Shepherd's Fields, right here in Bethlehem, and what we used to think of as a stable where maybe Jesus was born was actually a cave, very much like this one, and perhaps even this one. This cave is still used today by shepherds here in Bethlehem. So imagine the scene of a young girl, still a virgin, yet ready to give birth, probably not more than 14 years old, with her soon-to-be husband Joseph standing by, giving birth in a place like this. Not a stable the way we know it in the West, but a cave, the birthing place of actual sheep right here in the Holy Land. And why were they born? Well, the good rabbi is going to tell us in a little bit, but the secret is the Lamb of God that came to save the world is like the little lambs that were born here for the same purpose, to be sacrificed just a few miles away on the Temple Mount for the forgiveness of sin. And outside, already enemies. King Herod has heard about this child about to be born, and he's threatened. He's threatened that maybe a real king, because remember, he called himself the King of the Jews, but Herod wasn't even a Jew. He was an Edomite from down near the Dead Sea area. So he was very, very paranoid. So he asked his astrologers and everyone else, his so-called wise men, where is this child to be born? And they said, in the little village of Bethlehem, which probably only had about 100 people in residence at the time. So we have so many different ideas of what it was like, but this is actually what it was like. Isn't it so much more fun to realize that it was this? That's the thrill for me in studying in this way.
Come, begin your journey toward a deeper faith with 3-time Emmy Award winner Kathy Lee Gifford in her new book, The Rock, the Road, and the Rabbi. As a lifelong student of the Bible, Kathy Lee has always desired a deeper understanding of God's Word. Now you can walk with her and Rabbi Jason Sobel as they journey into the land where it all began.
We want everybody to understand that if we're not in touch with the Jewish life and faith that Jesus lived out every day of his life from the moment he was born, we are so missing out on the power in our Christian lives.
Hear directly from Kathy Lee about her life-changing and ever-deepening connection with Jesus. Explore dozens of ancient landmarks and historical sites from Israel, the Promised Land. Dig into the original languages and deeper meanings of the Bible. Quantities are limited, so call today to request your personal copy for a suggested minimum donation of $50. Call 1-800-265-3100 or visit crossroads.ca/donate.
Oh, I cannot wait to journey through some of these areas that we just saw Kathy Lee sharing. And we'd love to get this book into your hands again. Kathy Lee Gifford with Rabbi Jason Sobel has written this great new book, The Rock, the Road, and the Rabbi. I know many of you, like myself, haven't had the opportunity to journey through the Holy Land. This book will allow you to be able to just to get a glimpse of what it was like and what the land is like and what the contextual evidence of when Jesus was walking through this land. So please do get your book today. Well, we love to tell you about the God stories behind the headlines. The story of the 12 Thai boys plus their coach who were trapped in a cave for several weeks is no different. It's an amazing story that you're going to want to hear more about. To tell us more, here is Lorna Duick.
Well, those young heroes from the Thai cave rescue have finally gone home. 12 boys and their soccer coach are returning to normal life. They did one media appearance in Chiang Rai yesterday, and that's supposed to be it. They're supposed to get back to living at home normally. We'll see about that. I'm joined right now by a Saskatchewan missionary, Chris Pagan, with the Victory Churches, who's a pastor right near that cave drama, the Tam Lang cave operation. The world was fixed on that. Hi, Chris. Thank you for joining us. You've been in that cave many times. Tell us what you thought as you watched this unfold 5 minutes away from your front door.
Yeah, it's quite surreal for our little town of Mesa. It's a little border town, so we don't see a lot of a lot of things happen here. But the cave is actually quite beautiful. The mouth of the cave is probably as big as a football field. So, and then it breaks off into little channels. But yeah, to see that happen and to have the whole world kind of eyes on Mesa is quite phenomenal, actually. You're downtown and you see a lot of these famous mainstream media news guys, these news celebrity kind of guys. You run into them in the coffee shops. Everybody's trying to get interviews. It's, add a couple thousand people to our mix, and, things were really happening here.
Okay, so you decided this needed a lot of prayer. Tell me what started to kick into place with care and prayer around this dramatic rescue.
Well, initially we heard the first night that they were in there that the kids were stuck. So it was actually church. We had church that evening. So we prayed and we thought, they'll probably get out within the next couple of hours. But the day started to wind and the prayer started to intensify. It was, I think, gone about 4 or 5 days, 6 days, and then they called a citywide prayer in the city of Chiang Rai. So all the churches came together and prayed. We had people praying from all over the world, people that we knew, contacts through Facebook and things like that. Everybody was praying for these kids. It was quite everybody came together. It was quite neat.
Well, because we didn't understand it, what was at stake until day 9 here. I remember picking up the story. So you guys were already on this in the first 24 hours of the crisis. And how then did what happened as these heroes who are our rescue divers moved into place? Tell us what you know about that whole care for those divers.
We had actually run into a lot of the rescue people, like in the town and at the coffee shops near the mountain. And, a lot of them, they came on their own, they paid their own way, and they were determined to get these kids out. So we had encouraged them. We said, we're praying for you. A lot of them weren't even Christian, but they gladly accepted the prayer. And a lot of this, they were doing this on the assumption that the kids were still alive. And because they hadn't made contact for 10 days. So, the hopes were very high, but, I really do believe it was the prayer and just the people encouraging these workers, the other missionaries and the groups that, we were behind them. The world was rooting for these rescue people.
And, we discovered a compassion thread all over this story. It began years ago when homeless, vulnerable children were taken in by religious organizations. Abdul by the Baptist pastor, then the orphaned Escapol, the coach. He was taken in by the monks when he was 10 years old. What can you tell us about faith community care in Thailand?
Well, there's Mesa is even Thailand is quite a religious place. Buddhism is the natural religion of the people, but there is a strong Christian presence, a very active church, even though we're small in numbers. But the church was down there right away and what we could do. I mean, the people that had access, I mean, there was thousands of people at the site, so it wasn't like a very conducive to go down there and you know, be around the people all the time. But we had people down there, they were praying for the people. And the family of the one boy, Adun, he's a compassion child, and his parents were actually quite hopeful. They were actually encouraging the other parents not to give up, not to lose hope, and you know, just to believe that God was going to get these kids out of here. And the church rallied together, and people just prayed without ceasing. And it was quite amazing when we heard that there was contact. I mean, we were so excited. People were crying, people were cheering. It was like, yeah, like we won a championship or something.
And what's your advice, your counsel now that life tries to go on as normal back in that small community and all of these children reintegrate into their local homes?
Yeah, it's quite, for like the size of our town, it's quite phenomenal now that the world is going to be, their eyes, they know this place, they'll know the Cave Boys and they'll know Mesai, and now they're talking about bringing a movie here to shoot, so there could be lots of celebrities. So a lot of eyes are still on this place, but we still want to be committed as a body of Christ to, you know, try to reach out to these families and, you know, to do whatever we can in terms of, you know, spiritual support, and especially with the Christian family, how we can encourage them. And, you know, a lot of these farmers that sacrifice their land, and these people that dove, these local Thai people that climb the mountain. If there's ways that we can just encourage them and thank them, I think it's very practical ways that we can show the love of Christ.
Well, thank you very much, Chris Pagan. And I think we can't help but remember to ask for prayer today, too, for that family of that Navy SEAL diver who died trying to save those boys. And the boys wept when they heard that tragedy, and they wrote letters to his family. And I know the Thai king has been very honoring, but it's a great, that's the one tragedy that happened amidst this amazing, heroic rescue. Thank you, Chris Pagan, right there, 5 minutes away from the mouth of that cave. Thank you very much, Chris Pagan.
You're welcome.
Being a part of the prayer ministry, many times somebody will call us in the middle of the night and they will say, I'm watching a particular program, and the presenter just said something that really touched me, and it's as if he knows what I'm going through, and it's as if you know, he was talking directly to me, and I'm calling, and they said we can call this number for prayers, and we said yes, absolutely, and we're happy that you called us, and we're very, you know, delighted to be able to share a word with you and to let you know that the Lord is with you, and it doesn't matter what you're going through, but He's always there. So, you know, that's always a powerful thing.
Once I start on board, all we need to do is to pray beforehand and ask God for His blessing, His guidance, and then you take the calls. And each call is so different, but each call is a blessing that you help people with the issues and bring them to Christ.
Media. This medium. Curated, created, constructed, and colluded to communicate, to influence, to connect, and entertain. With ease, with speed. Over 7 billion people yearning to connect, yearning to be fed, always looking out for whatever's cool, whatever's funny, whatever's trending. The medium is the message, but are we receiving the message? When everything is constantly moving, constantly changing, there is one thing that will not change, one thing that will outlast our lives, one thing that lasts longer than time itself, one thing that knows no bounds, no status, no color. That one thing has a name. As missionaries, we are here to share that one name, Jesus. Using the ease and speed of media to spread light to the lost, to communicate, to influence, to inform, to connect. We are media missionaries.
Unhealthy expectations and a sense of entitlement can derail a relationship faster than a speeding bullet. Not only is such a mindset rampant among the younger generation, but it is pervasive in families and friendships. The common attitude today is somebody owes me something. If you found yourself disappointed or frustrated or even angered over an unfulfilled expectation, could it be that you have elevated an expectation to the status of a right? What gives us such a sense of entitlement anyway? We often fall into thinking that people owe us because of the title we hold in their lives, mother, daughter, brother, friend, boss, or whatever. We treat that title as if it's a title deed that gives us the right to whatever benefit we expect. If you have unhealthy, unreasonable, or unexpressed expectations, here's some strategies to help you overcome this relationship-destroying mindset. Number one, put each of your expectations in perspective. Ask yourself, is what I expect simply a desire or a right based upon a marriage covenant, a legal contract, or the Constitution of our country? Is this expectation reasonable? You may want to get some outside input from a friend on this one, because sometimes we just don't know what's reasonable. Remember that meeting expectations should be a two-way street. Be willing to meet the reasonable expectations of others, especially those on whom you have placed expectations. Of course, the next one is do not assume that someone's past kindness to you established a pattern or entitle you to ongoing benefits in the future. Understand that people always have the freedom to stop or delay their good deeds at their discretion. Make it a habit to express appreciation for every act of kindness that anyone extends to you. This will serve to remind you that nobody owes you anything. An attitude of gratitude is always a winning mindset.
Oh, what a great point. Thank you so much, Deborah. You know, I remember probably about 12 years ago now, because I was pregnant with Ethan. I remember being at a women's retreat and laying at the altar crying and praying and all this stuff. And I remember the speaker saying, many of us put expectations on our husbands that only God can meet. And that creates a situation where, you know, you have all these expectations, and a lot of them are driven by Hollywood. A lot of them are driven by, you know, not realistic expectations. And that creates a bubble for that person that is not attainable, that only God can actually meet in our lives.
It's not obtainable. So when you went back to Elton, did that immediately change your relationship?
It was a light bulb moment. I mean, I wouldn't say our marriage became perfect right off the bat, but it really recentered me and made me really check, what are things that I expect my husband to do? And maybe you can really relate with that. Maybe there are expectations that you've put on your spouse that when you actually think about it, no, you're expecting them to be somebody else, and that's not who they actually are.
And the only one that can meet your expectations, or in his will too, and I'm talking about Jesus, because sometimes you'll think, okay, I want God to do this, and he doesn't. And it's not that he doesn't love us, but he knows it's not good for us. But to begin a relationship with Jesus is where it all starts. And if you give our prayer line a call, there's always people that would like to lead you to Jesus. Or if you have some questions, 1-866-273-4444 is our prayer line. And I know even as a dad, trying to meet the expectations of my kids and being super dad.
How's it going for you?
Sometimes I'm okay. Sometimes I'm Clark Kent, and sometimes I'm Superman.
Yeah. No, I mean, we have to realize that we have to celebrate people for who they are, and God has created us all so differently and so individually. So how do we celebrate that? How do we actually encourage people to do their best and be their best and not expect them to be somebody else?
Because we can't be somebody else, and it really takes the pressure off when the expectations are lower but reasonable. Anyway, thank you for watching the program. See you next time.
Bye.
Thank you for your ongoing